While Essence was packing up the life she had built inside Alan Sinclair's townhouse, Alan was across town pretending one more secret would not cost him everything. But by the time he made it home, the driveway was empty, Essence was gone, and the only thing waiting for him was a letter on the refrigerator. Before we begin, please subscribe to Whispers of Grace Stories and follow the Kindred Spirits series. New stories are released every Thursday. This is Kindred Spirits, Season 1, Episode 2, The Letter. The bar in Northbridge was dim, intimate, and far enough from Crest Haven to feel like a private world. A small jazz band had just finished its second set, and Shannon sat beside him with the kind of confidence that made other people look twice. She was curvy, magnetic, restless, and bold in a way Essence never tried to be. Shannon did not walk into rooms hoping to be accepted. She walked in like she had already decided she belonged there, and if anyone disagreed, that was their problem. She lifted her glass and looked at Alan through her long lashes. "You want another drink?" Alan wanted to say yes. He wanted anything that would quiet the pressure in his chest and slow the noise in his head. But he glanced at his watch and shook his head. "I have to drive back tonight." Shannon gave him a look. "You always have to drive back." Alan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his thumb against the edge of his glass. "My mother wants me to be careful. She's been reading articles again." "About what this time?" Shannon asked. "Alcohol, fertility, stress, anything she can use to monitor my body like it belongs to her." Shannon's mouth twisted. "Your mother's demands never stop, do they?" Alan gave a dry laugh, but nothing about it sounded amused. "They will eventually." "When?" "When she's dead," he said, then looked down as if even the words had exposed too much. "And a woman like Maribel Sinclair will probably live forever just to piss me off." Shannon studied him. She knew the joke was not really a joke. She had seen Alan sober, drunk, high, angry, ashamed, charming, generous, and terrified. She had seen him walk into her life wearing expensive watches and tailored clothes while carrying the spirit of a boy who still expected his mother to punish him for wanting air. "What would happen," Shannon said carefully, "if you just told her no?" Alan looked at her like she had asked him to step off a building and trust the ground to move. "No?" "Yes, Alan. No. A small word. 2 letters. Very powerful. If I tell Maribel Sinclair no, I will lose my position at the Sinclair marketing firm. I will lose the townhouse, the company car, the money. My father will freeze the trust fund he set up for me. And most of all, my mother will make sure everybody in her circle knows I am unstable, ungrateful, and embarrassing." Shannon leaned closer. "Then find another job." Alan laughed louder this time, and a couple nearby glanced over. "Another job? Shannon, please. Where am I going to find another position like the one I have now? I work for one of the largest marketing firms in the region, and I did not get there because I built it. I got there because Maribel married into it and made sure I carry the Sinclair's name like a business card." Shannon tilted her head. "There are other cities. There are also smaller apartments, cheaper clothes, unpaid bills, and the reality that you enjoy the things my life provides." Shannon did not pretend to be offended. She smiled slowly and touched his face. "You are not wrong. That was one of the things Alan both loved and hated about Shannon. She did not soften truth unless it benefited her. Essence would have asked if he was okay. Shannon would tell him he was falling apart and then pour herself another drink. She was not innocent. She never pretended to be. She liked the gifts, the dinners, the paid rent, the clothes, the late-night attention, the thrill of being wanted by a man who belonged somewhere else. But Shannon also saw parts of Alan he hid from everyone else. She knew when his hands trembled before he reached for a glass. She knew when he was fighting the urge to take something stronger. She knew the difference between his arrogance and his panic. And she knew his mother's voice could enter a room without Maribel ever opening the door. "Come stay with me tonight," Shannon said, lowering her voice. "Not forever, not a dramatic escape, just tonight." Alan shook his head. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Act like you don't know why I can't." Shannon smirked, but there was irritation beneath it. "You're 37 years old, Alan. You are engaged to one woman, keeping another woman a secret, working under your stepfather, obeying your mother, and still acting like you have a curfew." "It's not a curfew." "What is it then?" Alan looked toward the stage where the singer was adjusting the microphone stand. "My mother says my private rendezvous are not a good image for a future husband and soon-to-be father." Shannon stared at him, then laughed once, sharp and humorless. "That woman is worried about your image, Maribel Sinclair, the same woman who learned how to survive by letting wealthy men finance her reinventions." Alan's jaw tightened. "Lower your voice." "Why? Is she hiding behind the bar too?" Shannon. "No, Alan. She treats you like a puppet and calls it protection. She tolerates me because she thinks I am useful or temporary. But the second I become inconvenient, she will try to erase me the same way she erases anything that does not serve her." Alan did not answer. Shannon's words landed too close to what he already knew. Maribel had found out about Shannon almost immediately. Of course she had. There was no part of Alan's life his mother did not eventually invade. But instead of exploding, Maribel had smiled that thin, elegant smile and told him to be discreet. She did not care that he was seeing another woman. She cared only that nothing interfered with the wedding, the family image, the money, and the plans she had built around Essence. "Essence has been acting strange anyway," Alan said, more to himself than to Shannon. Shannon's eyes brightened. She had been waiting for that door to open. "Strange how?" Alan hesitated. "She's been sleeping in the guest room." "For how long?" "A little over 2 months." Shannon leaned back. 2 months? She had a cervical biopsy. The doctor told her it was benign and that she needed 4 to 6 weeks to heal. I understood at first, but then it became normal. We go to dinner, we talk, we laugh, we sit together, and when it is time for bed, she gets up and goes to the guest room like I'm a roommate." "Did you ask her to come back to the bedroom?" "Yes. She said she read something about couples sleeping apart a few months before the wedding to make things more exciting." Shannon's laugh was soft, cruel, and amused. "Or maybe your sweet Essence has excitement somewhere else." Alan's eyes snapped toward her. "Don't! I'm just saying. You don't know her. Apparently neither do you." Alan leaned forward, anger flashing across his face, then disappearing almost as quickly as it came. "Essence would not cheat on me." Shannon's eyebrow lifted. "But you are cheating on her." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Alan looked away first. "I love Essence," Alan said, and the words sounded sincere enough to hurt them both. "You may not understand that, but I do. She calms something in me. She reminds me of—" Alan caught himself. "When I'm with her, I feel like maybe I can still become someone different." Shannon's face hardened, but her hand stayed on his arm. "And what do I do?" Alan looked at her. "You make me forget I haven't become him yet." Shannon absorbed that, and for once, she did not have a quick answer. It was insulting and intimate at the same time. She was not his peace. She was his escape, and the worst part was that she knew it and had accepted the arrangement because the rewards had been too good to turn down. "You're going to marry her," Shannon said. "That's the plan." "No, That is Maribel's plan. Alan looked down at the table. Maybe mine too. I don't know anymore. His voice thinned, and for a moment the polished man disappeared. Underneath the expensive shirt, the watch, the name, the confidence, there was a man who had been trained to survive by performing whatever role kept his mother satisfied. Marketing executive, future husband, future father, grateful son, Sinclair heir, secret lover, functional addict. Alan had collected identities the way Maribel collected designer bags, each one chosen to prove something neither of them really possessed. Shannon reached into her purse and slid a small bottle toward him beneath the table. Alan looked at it, then looked away. I'm trying not to. Trying not to what? She asked, already knowing. Need something to get through my own life. Shannon's expression softened, but only a little. You tapered down because of Essence, didn't you? Because of the wedding, because of the family plan, because my mother has turned my body into one more investment. He pushed the bottle back. I don't want that tonight. Shannon did not argue. That was another thing about her. She tempted him, but she did not beg him to fall. She simply left the door open and let him decide whether to walk through it. Alan glanced at his watch again, and this time his eyes widened. What? Shannon asked. He stood too fast, nearly knocking into the table. I have to go. Of course you do. I told Essence I had a late office meeting for a new client account we acquired. If I'm too late, she'll start calling. Calling who? Your mother? Alan grabbed his jacket. Shannon laughed, but it came out bitter. Imagine being more afraid of your mother than your fiancé. Alan leaned down and kissed her quickly, like affection could excuse cowardice if done with enough urgency. I'll see you Sunday. You always say that like I'm supposed to be grateful. Shannon, go home, Alan. Her smile returned, but it was colder now. Before one of your women notices the other one exists. Alan did not answer. He walked out into the night and climbed into his black Range Rover. For a few seconds, he sat with both hands on the steering wheel, breathing through the kind of emptiness no drink could fill. Then his phone rang. The screen lit up with one word. Witch. It was his mother. Alan stared at the name before answering, already exhausted. Hi, Mom. It's late. Is everything okay? Maribel Sinclair's voice came through smooth, controlled and coated in irritation. It cannot be that late if you are having things delivered to your home. Alan frowned. Delivered? What are you talking about? Connor called a little while ago. He said there was a large truck outside your townhouse. Men carrying things. Furniture. He could not tell. Naturally, I assumed you would know what was happening at your own residence. Alan closed his eyes. Connor. The neighbor who smiled too hard, waved too often, and reported to Maribel like neighborhood surveillance was his spiritual gift. I didn't order anything. Then perhaps Essence did. Maribel's tone sharpened around Essence's name. Maybe she decided to replace the furniture I selected. I only wish she had enough class to consult me first, especially since those pieces were not cheap. Though I suppose when someone is used to discount stores and small apartments, they do not always understand the difference between furniture and investment. Alan's jaw clenched. Don't talk about her like that. Maribel went quiet for half a second, which was worse than if she had yelled. Excuse me? Alan rubbed his forehead. I said, I don't know anything about a truck. Essence hasn't mentioned replacing furniture or much of anything lately. I'll call her and find out. Much of anything? Maribel repeated. Alan Sinclair, do not rush me off this phone after making a statement like that. He cursed under his breath. He should have known better. Maribel could detect weakness in a sentence before most people caught the subject. It's nothing. She's just been distant since the biopsy. Sleeping in the guest room, quiet, working, reading. You know how she gets." "No," Maribel said. "I know how women get when they are preparing to become inconvenient." Alan's eyes opened. "Mother, do not mother me, because you have allowed a fragile woman with an unfinished marriage and 2 children to disturb a plan that was already delicate. Essence is not a plan. Everything is a plan if you intend to survive, Alan. Love is what people talk about when they have the luxury of being foolish. We do not have that luxury right now." Her voice lowered, and Alan felt the threat before she said it plainly. "You listen to me, and you listen carefully. I do not care what little emotional storm is happening between you and Essence. I care that you marry her, settle her, and start the family we discussed." Alan's grip tightened on the phone. "You make it sound like she's some kind of asset. She is a respectable woman with the right softness, the right history, and the right desperation to appreciate what you offer her. That makes her more useful than half the women you waste your time with." Alan's stomach turned. "You mean Shannon. I mean distractions." Then Maribel's composure cracked just enough for fear to show through. "If your father finds out about the overseas deal before this family looks stable, I will not be the only one humiliated. You think your trust is untouchable? You think your position at Sinclair Marketing cannot become conditional? Do not be naive. Jonathan loves you, but he loves order more." Alan's voice dropped. "What exactly did you do overseas?" "What I had to do. That's not an answer. It is the only one you need tonight." He said nothing. Maribel took his silence as obedience. She always had. "Go home, call Essence, fix whatever this is before it becomes visible. And if I can't," Maribel laughed softly, "then you will learn what happens when my son makes my life harder than the strangers I married to escape." The line went dead. Alan sat in the parking lot with the phone still pressed to his ear long after Maribel hung up. The night around him looked normal. Cars passed on the road, music leaked faintly through the bar walls. Somewhere behind him, Shannon was probably finishing her drink, deciding whether she hated him or missed him. But inside Alan, something had started slipping. "How did I get here?" he whispered. The question came out before he could stop it. How did my whole life become hers? He dropped the phone into his lap and leaned back against the headrest. He wanted something to take the edge off. He wanted the bottle Shannon had offered. He wanted the older, darker thing he had promised himself he was done with. He wanted silence in his blood. Instead, he pressed both hands over his face and tried to breathe. It had been weeks since he had touched anything stronger than pills, and even that had become a private negotiation. One to sleep, one to calm down, one because Maribel called, one because Essence pulled away, one because he had a meeting, one because he had to pretend he was fine. Addiction had never introduced itself to Alan like a monster. It came dressed as relief. It came with music, soft hands, locked bathrooms, late drives, and the promise that he could disappear for a few hours without actually leaving his life. He hated that he wanted it. He hated that Shannon knew. He hated that Essence, with all her brokenness, had still managed to become the cleanest part of his world. His mind went to Lily, the girl from his childhood who used to tell him to pray when his thoughts scared him. He had not spoken to her in many years. Still, her voice came back sometimes when his life grew too loud. Alan stared through the windshield and spoke into the quiet like a man embarrassed to be heard by heaven. "I don't know if I have the right to ask for anything," he said. "But if there is a way out of this, show me before I lose what's left of myself." He sat there, ashamed of the prayer, and desperate for it at the same time. Then he started the engine. As he pulled out of the parking lot, he called Essence. No answer. He called again. No answer. "Pick up," he muttered. "Come on, Essence. Pick up the phone." Nothing. He switched to voice command, keeping his eyes on the road. "Hey Siri, send a text to Essence. Honey, I just got out of the meeting. Mom said one of the neighbors saw some kind of delivery truck or furniture truck near the house. Call me as soon as you can. I love you." The text message was sent. The road stretched ahead, dark and slick beneath the streetlights. Essence usually answered him, even when she was distant, even when she slept in the guest room, even when her voice had that quiet, far-away tone he hated. She answered. 30 minutes later, Alan pulled up to the gate of his community and reached for his wallet. His gate card was gone. He searched the console, the cup holder, his jacket pocket, then cursed when he remembered Shannon had taken his card by mistake when she settled the tab earlier. "You've got to be kidding me." He pressed the call button for the townhouse. Essence did not answer. He called her phone again. Nothing. Irritation rose first, because irritation was easier than fear. Then he called Connor. Connor answered on the third ring, cheerful in a way that made Alan want to break something. "Hello?" "Connor, this is Alan Sinclair. I live a few houses down." "Oh, yes, Maribel's son." Alan closed his eyes. Of course. Even here, he was not Alan first. He was Maribel's son. "Right. I left my gate card, and my fiancé isn't answering. Can you buzz me in?" "Sure thing." The gate began to open slowly, painfully slow, as if the entire night had decided to mock him. Alan squeezed through the moment there was enough space, then drove toward his townhouse faster than he should have. At first, nothing looked wrong. The porch light was on. The windows were dark. The neighborhood was quiet in that expensive way that made secrets feel well manicured. Then he saw the empty space in the driveway. Essence's truck was gone. He stared at the spot like his eyes had misread it. The BMW truck he had bought her for her 35th birthday should have been there, sitting in its usual place, polished and perfect, one more symbol of everything he had given her. But the space was empty. Alan's chest tightened. "No," he whispered. He parked crooked, barely closed the door behind him, and hurried inside. "Essence?" His voice echoed through the front room. He flipped on the light. The first thing he noticed was not what was missing. It was the sound. The townhouse had always been quiet, but this was different. This was hollow. He moved through the living room, then the dining area, then the kitchen. Essence? Nothing. He went upstairs, taking the steps 2 at a time. The guest room door was open. The closet was nearly empty. The bathroom counter had been cleared. The small basket of hair products, lotions, and little things he used to pretend annoyed him was gone. He went to the main bedroom, then into her walk-in closet. Spaces that once held her clothes now stared back at him bare. Her shoes were gone. Her dresses were gone. Her luggage was gone. Alan's body went cold before his mind accepted what it already knew. The truck had not delivered anything. It had taken her. He grabbed his phone and called her again. Then again. Then again. Each call went unanswered, and with every ring, his panic grew uglier. He left one voicemail, then another, each one less controlled than the last. "Essence, call me back." "Essence, this is not funny. Where are you? You cannot just leave like this. Please call me." By the time he came back downstairs, his breath was shallow and his hands were trembling. He walked through the kitchen without seeing it at first. Then his eyes caught the white envelope taped to the refrigerator. His name was written across the front in Essence's handwriting. Alan stopped. For a moment, he did not move. The whole house seemed to wait with him. Then he reached for it. Alan tore the envelope open with fingers that did not feel like his own. The letter shook as he unfolded it. Dear Alan, I know this is the worst way to say goodbye, but I knew if I saw you again, you would have made it impossible for me to leave. Over the past few months, my desire to become whole again has become greater than my fear of starting over, and I believe this is the right thing to do. I had to do this for both of us, and I hope one day you can forgive me. We both know we were not meant to build a life this way. We found comfort in a hopeless place, but comfort is not always healing. It is time for me to face the truth about the decisions I made and the damage those decisions caused. I spent too long playing the victim in my own story. Yes, I was hurt. Yes, I was broken. But I also left my marriage. I left my children. I buried myself in work, alcohol, anger, shame, and things that made me feel valuable for a moment, but never made me free. There is not enough shopping, travel, money, jewelry, clothing, or luxury in the world to deliver me from what I have refused to face. None of it can cover guilt. None of it can silence rejection. None of it can make a broken heart whole. Most of all, Alan, I cannot become your wife when I am still someone else's wife. There was a time when I thought I needed what you could give me. The house, the things, the security, the beautiful life. But what I truly need is healing, truth, and the courage to stop running from the people I hurt, including myself. I hope your eyes open too. Not because I want to hurt you, but because I know there is more for you than control, fear, money, and whatever pain you keep pretending is not there. You have a life beyond your mother's plans. You have a soul beyond the Sinclair name. And I pray one day you find enough courage to choose it. I am sorry for the way I am leaving. I am sorry for loving you from a broken place. I am sorry for letting you believe I could belong to you, while pieces of me were still tied to a life I had not finished facing. I hope you forgive me one day. Love, Essence. Alan's mind and body froze. The letter lowered slowly in his hand. He stood in the middle of the half-empty townhouse, surrounded by evidence that she had planned this while he was somewhere else pretending he still had time. For one brief, terrifying second, a thought moved through him so quietly it felt like it did not belong to him. Maybe this was the way out he had asked for. The thought hurt worse than the letter, because Alan loved Essence. In his damaged, selfish, possessive, frightened way, he loved her. But he also knew she was right. He knew marrying her would not heal him. He knew a baby would not save Maribel. He knew Shannon could not rescue him. He knew money had become a cage with better lighting. Alan looked up at the ceiling, anger and grief rising together. "It wasn't a furniture truck, Mom," he screamed, his voice breaking into a laugh that sounded almost mad. "It was a moving truck." The laugh cracked open into a cry, not a polished cry, not the kind a man can hide behind a clenched jaw. This was ugly, breathless, childlike. He cried because Essence was gone. He cried because Maribel would blame him. He cried because the house felt too large without the woman who had made it feel human. And he cried because, for the first time in his adult life, he could see the shape of his prison clearly. When the crying stopped, panic returned with fierceness. Alan wiped his face with the back of his hand and read the letter again, slower this time, as if the words might change if he gave them a second chance. They did not. Essence had left. The future he had been trying to put into place suddenly felt impossible. And whatever Maribel believed she still controlled was beginning to slip out of his hands. And Maribel was going to make him pay for all of it. His breath grew shallow. The kitchen seemed to tilt. He could almost hear his mother before she called, controlled at first, then surgical, then cruel. She would not ask if he was okay. She would ask how he allowed this to happen. She would remind him what was at stake. She would turn his pain into evidence of his incompetence and then hand him instructions for cleaning up the mess. Alan stumbled upstairs, not because he had a plan, but because his body knew where the escape was kept. In his closet, beneath folded socks and expensive ties, there was a small black leather case he had told himself he would not open again. He pulled it out and sat on the floor with it in his lap. For a moment, he only stared at it. The case held more than his secrets. It held proof that the man everyone saw was not the man living inside his skin. It held the part of him Shannon understood too well, the part Essence had sensed but never named, the part Maribel would have hidden if it threatened the family image. Alan opened the case. The sight of what he had kept there made his stomach turn and his hands steady at the same time. That was the sickness of it, shame and relief arriving together. He thought about calling Shannon. He thought about calling Essence again. He thought about calling nobody, because nobody could fix what he was about to do. "I just need to stop feeling this," he whispered. It was the lie every addiction tells before it takes more than pain. Alan sat there in the closet of a half-empty townhouse with Essence's letter downstairs and Maribel's voice waiting somewhere in the night, and he chose the one escape that had never asked him to be honest. The room softened at the edges, the panic loosened, the grief blurred, and for a little while the truth stopped chasing him. But it did not leave. It only waited. Sometimes a person's double life is not only about cheating, lying, or sneaking around. Sometimes it is about survival patterns they never healed from. Pain they learned to medicate. Control they learned to obey. And comfort they learned to confuse with love. Alan wanted freedom, but every time freedom got close, fear sent him back to the very things that were destroying him. So ask yourself, have I ever called something peace when it was really escape? Have I been using people, habits, money, attention, or control to avoid the truth I need to face? And what would it look like to stop protecting the version of me that keeps me broken? Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for the next episode of Kindred Spirits as the story continues. Because sometimes the letter that breaks your heart is also the truth strong enough to wake you up.